What's happening, guys, and welcome back to the YouTube channel. I'm super excited to be back, and today we're going to teach you how to set up a fish tank. Before we get started, I'd like to thank Dero for sponsoring us this tank and the equipment you see in front of us. Be sure to watch the video till the end where we give away this awesome tank, and look out for the details at the end of the video on how to enter. Okay, so the first thing you need when setting up your tank is obviously your simple glass box, but the most important thing is where you're going to put this tank. It's very crucial that you put the tank on a 100% level surface, because a glass box is designed to distribute weight evenly. If you put the tank on an uneven or an unlevel surface, you will crack this tank. Okay, so now that you figured out where you're going to put your tank, the next thing I'd like to start with is a simple background picture. Now, a lot of people overlook this step, but I think it's super crucial. For the very reason, it creates depth to your tank, and it hides all that wiring that you see from the light and the filters and all that unnecessary stuff. So I get a lot of questions on how do we stick the background picture. So it's literally quite simple. We use double-sided tape and your background picture. Now that that's done, let's talk about gravel. So it really depends on what you want to do. For today's video, we're going to use actual gravel, actual stones, but in certain cases you might want to use fine sand or actual physical substrate. So I'm going to go with a classic brown gravel for today's video. Be sure to wash this gravel before putting it into the tank to avoid milkiness and cloudiness for days on end. So to wash your gravel, it's quite simple. An empty bucket, a blade to open up the packet, and water. Now that we've put the gravel in the tank, the next thing I'd like to talk about is the heater. This is essentially a very important piece of equipment. Choosing the right quality brand will mean a lot and will take you further with keeping your fish tank. The brands that I recommend is Via Aqua and Eheim. The next thing when thinking about a heater is always remember a heater is rated for 1 watt per liter. So for example, this is 150 watts, which is rated for 150 liters. But we're going to use it in a 60 liter tank. The idea behind that is if you choose a bigger heater, it has to work less hard and ultimately will last longer. So the next thing you might ask is, where do I put this heater? So it's rather quite simple, right? There isn't a specific position in the tank where you'll put the heater, where it will optimize the tank. Rather, put the heater at the back of your tank, in the corner, out of the way. So the next important piece of equipment is ultimately your filter. Always think of your filter like the engine of your car. A car without an engine can't do nothing. Same as a fish tank. A fish tank without a filter can't be a fish tank. Your fish won't survive, your fish won't be happy. So today we're using a Boyu internal filter. The purpose of this filter is to circulate the water and to trap dust or waste. So your next question would be is, where do I put the internal filter and what internal filter do I look for? Ultimately, you want an internal filter that's suitable for the fish you're keeping in the tank. So if you're going to keep small fish, for example, we have a small tank, we're going to probably keep small fish in here. We can't put a filter that's too big and powerful that's going to blow the fish away. So we're going to choose a relatively small one that's not too powerful, but it will still keep our tank clean and that will still move the water and make sure the water is flowing. So the next piece of equipment, which is vitally important to keeping any fish tank, is gonna be our air pump, which is ultimately gonna be connected to a corner filter. I'm gonna run through how to set up a corner filter just now with you guys. This is ultimately the heart and soul of your fish tank. This is where all your bacteria is gonna live, and that bacteria is the bacteria that's gonna actually sustain the life that's living in a tank, and the bacteria that's gonna break down NO2, NO3, and ammonia in your fish tank. So my favorite way to set up a corner filter is this particular method here. Now, we have ammonia stones at the bottom, ceramic rings in the middle, and filter wool at the top. Another method of setting up a corner filter would be this one over here, where we have ammonia stones right at the bottom, charcoal in the middle, and filter wool right at the top. The last method, which I never do, is where you put gravel right at the bottom, charcoal in the middle, and filter wool in the top. Now, I don't particularly like this method as you're wasting that space at the bottom, whereas you could be putting ammonia stones that could serve an extra purpose. The ammonia stones will help remove ammonia from the water, but also store bacteria. When setting up your corner filter, or basically how to use your corner filter, would be with an air pump. So, what does this actually do for your fish tank? It stores bacteria, it's going to help polish your water, and it's going to allow oxygen to be delivered to the fish tank via your air pump. Your air pipe will connect to the small tube over here. I don't know if you can see that, but through that one there. You will simply place your corner filter in the tank. Let's find a lacquer spot for it. Maybe move the filter there. There we go there. All right, awesome. The other end will connect to your air pump. Something not to forget, which is quite important, is a one-way valve. This is called a non-return valve, which you connect in line to your air pump. This prevents the backflow of water from the tank into the air pump. And lastly, a simple regulator like this, just to control the flow of the bubbles. We don't want the bubbles too strong and splashing all over. So basically that's how you connect it. Take care to note the direction of the non-return valve. Generally, some non-return valves you have will show you an arrow in the direction of airflow, and obviously that's just your simple regulator connected in line as well. Another simple piece of equipment is a thermometer. This is going to help you tell the temperature. And when setting temperature in your fish tank, always remember to take note of your ambient temperature or what season you are. When in winter, try to keep the water warmer between 28 and 30. And when in summer, try to keep the water a little bit cooler, 26. Now for the fun stuff. Putting decor, putting some rocks, and putting some plants. Now this is ultimately completely up to you how you want your tank to look. Everybody's got their own unique style. I just saw something simple for today's video. Just a little decor to hide the equipment, to make the tank look a little bit smart. It's important to remember, once you've put water into your tank, that your heater should not be plugged in immediately. You should always wait 15 minutes and then plug on your heater. But for now, while we wait for the heater, we're going to plug everything else in. Let's go for our internal filter. We got power there, that's lovely. And we're going to go for our air pump. Couple things to note. I never overdo it with decor. You don't want too much decor that the tank is more filled with decorations than actual fish in the water. simple is always better. And the most important thing is, once you fill up your tank, is to start with your anti-chlorine. Now we're going to use a Darrow anti-chlorine. This is quite a simple product. I love this product because it's blue. Just a simple light squirt like that, and that's it. You will use anti-chlorine whenever you use tap water or when you use any source of water. Whenever you're putting any source of water in the tank, make sure to use anti-chlorine, whether you're doing a water change, topping up due to evaporation, or due to a water change. And then lastly, our nitrifying bacteria. Now this can come in many forms, but for today's exercise, we're going to be using Sera. Sera Bio-Nitrivac removes NO2 and NO3 as well as ammonia from the system. The way to use these type of products is to put a little bit in every day. So for example, when you have your tank, it's very, very important to cycle the tank. Always remember, you're trying to mimic an ecosystem in a glass box. That just doesn't happen overnight. That's why we use stuff like Sera Bio-Nitrivac to jumpstart the system, and putting in a little bit every day will do that for you. The reason why you can't just put fish in immediately is because there's no beneficial bacteria in this tank to sustain life. Now you get two types of bacteria that's very important. You get aerobic bacteria and you get anaerobic bacteria. Now the one removes NO2, NO3 and ammonia, which is aerobic, and anaerobic tends to sustain life. But you need both, and you need to work in harmony to get the ecosystem ready for fish. The best thing to do is to cycle your tank for a minimum of 5 to 7 days. Using something like Sera Nitrivac every day to jumpstart the system, to add the nitrifying bacteria and to remove the NO2 from the system. Make sure you get the water tested first before you add fish in. And when you put fish in for the first time, make sure you do not overdo it. Put 3 or 4 fish just to test the system before buying all the fish that you really want to put in the tank. Okay, so for the final steps, putting on our lovely canopy. And check how cool that is. Alright, so always remember, your lighting should be on for a maximum of 6 to 8 hours lighting. The light you would choose would depend on your objective of what you're trying to do. So for example, if you're keeping plants, you choose a light very specific to growing plants, for example, a grow light. Or if you're keeping marine coral, then you'll choose a light very specific to that. But in our case, we're just doing a simple setup, so the light is purely cosmetic. Ensure that the light's not on for more than 6 to 8 hours per day. And now for the most exciting part. I'm about to give away this tank sponsored by Darrow. And here's how you're gonna win. What you guys have to do is you have to follow me on Instagram and TikTok, subscribe to our YouTube channel, like this video, and lastly, leave a comment on any of our platforms telling me why I should win this tank and what fish you're gonna put in this tank.